Team Oliveira, Charles Oliveira, guys, I want on board. I want on the team, and I feel like I missed out. So I can jump on now, but I'm a fan and I'm a front runner like anybody. Where are we going? Where's this train headed? So, Charles Oliveira has come out, and wouldn't you know he wants to fight. Did you hear when, guys? In March. That's a weird detail to give. You got the who, what, when, why, and where, otherwise you don't have a story. Those are your 5 W's. You will include a who, what, when, why, and where, or you don't have a story. Even if you have 4 of them, you don't have a story. You must have all 5. Now, of those 5, there is an importance and there is a way that you're going to build. You might reveal 2 of the W's. And another day goes by and you give up 2 more, but you're holding one up your sleeve and you finally give the 5th W. The story is now finally complete. Giving the win sure puts a lot of pressure on the other 4. I'm going to tell you when I want to fight. Well, that's generally the excuse that a guy needs to keep for when the other W's don't line up. When it's not the right opponent, when it's not the right money, when it's not the right placement, when it's not the right opportunity, when it's not the right ranking, when it's not the right contendership, you can then always hold back the win. Charles has come out and says he would like to fight in March. Okay. But now I just got to get him an opponent and we're done. Any opponent that I pull out now, for any reason, any placement on the card, any contendership, now it's very hard to get out of. It's very hard to back out the door. You've already said when you want to fight. You've already let us know when you'll be in compliance, when you'll be in shape, when your weight will be down, when you'll be mentally and physically peaked. You've already told us that. So the other 4 W's really don't matter once we had that one. I mean, you guys understand the point? Okay, if I'm matchmaking for Charles Oliveira, there is only one fight at 155 pounds for Charles. And that fight is against Benny. Now, Benny must not believe that because he's putting his attention into Poirier. Poirier's a big enough star, it really doesn't matter what the rest of them think. And I'm just sharing, you're in this really weird vortex. Charles needs to steer his own career. Charles is 1 win away from fighting for a world championship. I don't know that there's anybody else you could say that about at 155. As good as Benny is, I don't know that we know that. As good as, Dustin Poirier is, we don't know what kind of parity they're going to look to be doing. When you were the former champion, you come in, you fight one time. If it goes well, you go and fight for the belt again. Is a lot of times how this is played. But that can't be just against anybody. And when Charles comes out and says, I want to fight in March, well, he just made it against anybody. I'd respect that. I'd give Charles a hard time at all. I'm sharing for you what has been done. Very difficult situation to back out of now. And if I'm the matchmaker and I'm putting Charles Oliveira in, I have to put Charles with Benny. I have to. There aren't other players left on the board. The problem, if I put Charles with Benny, the problem is if Charles wins, I don't want to put him in there with Islam. And now I've just gotten rid of Benny. That's the problem. But if I'm pretty sure that Benny can beat Charles, I can shine Benny up, and a promoter will always take a risk based on what if. No matter how unlikely. If you have a what if. But if Islam is to get the jump on Volk and Charles to get the jump on Vinny, you now got a problem because there's nothing about Charles versus Islam that says rematch. Nothing. And you only need a few things. You need a little controversy. You need a really good fight. You need a really close fight. Or you need the fighter to be demanding it, of which Charles hadn't even said the words Islam. hadn't even said the words. Charles's coach came out and said Charles was offered an immediate rematch with Islam. And he never finished that thought. That was all that he said, but we're looking around going, well, he doesn't have it. Volk has it, so he must have said no. If he said no today, why would we want to see it a month from now, a year from now, 5 fights from now? A no is a no. So it's just a precarious spot. And again, if I'm matchmaking for Charles, I'm looking out for Charles. I'm only looking out for Charles. I have to put him against Benny, or I have to put him against Leon for the belt at 170. There's nothing else that I could do to serve him. Charles is not a 55-pounder. If you're 5'11", you're not a 55-pounder. If you have tried to make 155 and you've missed it, you're not a 55-pounder. If you had your world championship taken away at this scale, you're not a 155-pounder. And Charles's career could be very short. It's not his fault. I mean, a 155, boy, it's iron on iron. I never had to deal with anything like it. Nobody does. There's 5 Jon Joneses at 155 pounds. He stands out at heavyweight or 205 because there's only one. Iron on top of iron. Charles just come off a loss, a finish. He could very easily lose his next fight, particularly if he's in there with somebody as high-ranked as Benny. And what happens to the one after that? He loses that one. He's out of the company. At a minimum, he's off TV. If you're off TV, you might as well be out of the company, right? I mean, it's one of those things. It's that hard, though. And Charles isn't some kind of a spring chicken. So, I mean, I'm just sharing for you. Like, what goes around comes around. The same soup that Charles served to Tony Ferguson, Islam followed by Benny might serve it back to him. I'm just sharing. We don't know. Now, one thing that we do know for sure is Charles's career will be shorter. I'm not calling it short. I'm calling it shorter if he stays at 55. If he moves up to 170, all sorts of new opportunity. Life will be better. You're consuming more calories. You're a happier person. Your attitude is different. Your longevity within the sport. And that's somewhere he needs to give a real good look. Me bumping him all the way to a world title fight, I get the resistance and I get the problems, but you also see the problem if Kamaru Usman doesn't show up. It is such a problem if Kamaru Usman doesn't show up. It is such a problem that we're keeping some of the sport's biggest stars dry just so one of them can fill in. And we're even seeing such a desperation that we're talking about bringing in Masvidal. So when you're confronted with that, all of a sudden my suggestion of taking Charles and moving him up is a pretty good one. And that's something I would look to do if I was Team Charles. It's something that I would do if I was asked to do the matchmaking for Oliveira's next fight.